All right. Thank you. Good afternoon, and welcome to the November 24th, 2025 work session of the Board of Education of Charles County. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right? Thank you. As I often do, I will take a moment to share our mission statement. The mission of Charles County Public Schools is to provide an opportunity for all school-age children to receive an academically challenging, quality education that builds character, equips for leadership, and prepares for life in an environment that is safe and conducive to learning. All right. Thank you all again for joining us. We pivoted this month to have the work session be virtual to allow people time to travel if they need to get extra time with their families. So thank you for everyone who is joining us virtually. We will begin first with a presentation by Mr. Mike Heim, our Chief of Operations and Supporting Services. And Mr. Heim, please introduce anyone who may be joining you.
Good evening, Chair, Mrs. Morley. I'm Mike Heim, the Chief of Operation and Supporting Services. I'll be giving the presentation tonight, and I'll be presenting information on alternative school vehicle procedures. Every year, every school system that uses vans in any capacity to transport students, whether it be to school for specialized programs or from school to school or for even some small field trips, must give this presentation on a yearly basis to their Board of Education per COMAR, based back when this change was made several years ago to allow for the use of alternative school vehicle procedures. As far as what directs this is listed under COMAR. So again, this was a change that occurred several years ago at the state level to allow school systems to transport students in limited capacities for various reasons, whether it be to and from school or field trips or specialized programs. Drivers who drive these vans meet many of the same requirements that school bus drivers who are certified by the local transportation director, such as they have to have a Class A license. They cannot have more than 2 points on their driving record, and that's something that we monitor through the Maryland flagging system. They must be 21 years or older. They also are placed in the random drug and alcohol pool, just like all certified school bus drivers are in the state of Maryland. And they also have a yearly DOT physical. That's a Department of Transportation physical. They also go through yearly training, 4 hours of pre-service, and then they go through 2 hours of follow-up in service on an annual basis. As far as other things that would disqualify, many of the same things that would disqualify, as you can see from this slide. And I'm not got through all these bullets, but would disqualify a school bus driver would also be applied to a driver for an alternative vehicle, such as anyone who would be charged under child abuse or neglect, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, or also anyone who has pled guilty or nullo, and excuse my Latin here, contendere with respect to a placed on probation before judgment for control or dangerous. Yes, I'll refer to Mrs. Morley, our attorney, for that information, for that proper pronunciation. And also disqualification for unsafe actions, just as any school bus driver, if they were doing anything while operating a alternative vehicle, they should not. Same as a school bus driver would be operating a school bus. Also, as I mentioned earlier, the 3 or more points of the driver's record. So all of our drivers, whether it be a school bus driver or a alternative van driver or vehicle driver, are in the Maryland flagging system, and that's something that we monitor on a daily basis. So anytime a school bus driver, or in this case, alternative school vehicle driver, gets points on their license, we receive notification through that flagging process, and that's something that we monitor. And just like a school bus driver who would be decertified in the state of Maryland, same thing would happen for an alternative vehicle driver. If they are decertified, we notify MSDE, so that would also apply to any other county. So someone who would be decertified here to drive an alternative vehicle in Charles County could not apply to Calvert or any other county. So that goes through the system that's through MSDE. Next slide. It talks about the various reasons why we would transport students. We transport students, some of which attend non-county out-of-public schools. We transport students who are displaced under McKinney-Vento. We transport students who are taking, middle school students who are taking geometry at the high school. So we transport them back and forth via vans when they go to the high school to take the geometry. Then we transport them back to the middle school so that they can take the rest of their classes at the middle school level. We also use vans in some cases for small athletic trips. So at the end of the season, if we have a few golfers or a few wrestlers who've qualified for the state meets or the state matches, we'll transport them in vans if available, as compared to transporting them into by a bus, which obviously there's a considerable more price transporting by bus than an alternative vehicle such as a van. The next slide talks about some specifics. So it talks about the alternative vehicle. It has to be under 10,000 pounds, and it cannot transport more than 10 passengers in that vehicle. And you'll see some, we also we're in the process of putting video cameras in the vehicles, just like our school buses have video cameras to monitor things that happen on the buses. We're in that process of doing the same thing with vans. And the vehicles go through an inspection per COMAR. So we have 2 licensed mechanics who are on our staff who will do the inspections of our vans on a yearly basis. And then also the folks who are driving them are supposed to be conducting a pre-trip and a post-trip with the van, just like a school bus driver do, to make sure that turn signals and all safety functions of that van or alternative vehicle are working just like they would for a school bus. So at this point, I would turn it back over to you, Mrs. Morley, for questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Heim. One quick question before we get started. You mentioned about putting cameras similar to how we have on the buses rather. Those are typically only video, is that correct? Not audio?
Correct.
Okay. So would it be the same in this case?
So in the vans, they're audio. I'm sorry, they're video, not audio. But on the school bus, some of them are audio and video. Some of the
Okay.
interior ones on the bus do have audio.
Audio. Okay. All right. Because I know those, at times are very important pieces of evidence, fortunately and unfortunately. All right. Thank you, Mr. Heim. Board members, do you have any questions? Okay, Ms. Butler Washington.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Hines, the cameras that's on the bus, say if someone passed the bus and it's a ticketed, who do those funds go to?
Question. So we have an MOU between the Sheriff's Office and Bus Patrol. Bus Patrol is the company that supplied the camera system to the school system, and again, that was at no cost to the school system. So the cameras we have on both the CCPS owned buses and the contractor owned buses were at no cost to us. Now, through that MOU and that partnership, the fines are split. Any fines that are collected for a violation of a passenger vehicle running the red lights or the stop arm of a school bus, that is split between Bus Patrol and the Sheriff's Office. So the school system was happy to get those cameras at no cost, because that was that would be a heavy lift for the school system to have cameras on all of our buses. So not only do we get external cameras, which are great for the purpose of trying to control, people in the community running the red lights, but some of those exterior cameras have also been been beneficial in some of the accidents that have occurred with the buses and helping with those investigations. And then, as I mentioned, we got the interior cameras as a part of that. So before we had that partnership with Bus Patrol, we only had about 60% of our buses with interior cameras because it was a cost of several $1,000s to equip each bus with those cameras. So as part of that, we were happy to get them at no cost to us. Plus, we're happy to have, most importantly, we're happy to have that enforcement of members of the community or even outside the community or traveling through Charles County, putting students' lives at risk by running the red lights of a bus. So we do not get any fines as a result of fines that are collected through that enforcement program.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heim. Yeah, I remember how excited you were when you were talking about that. That would be a no cost to us. So we always appreciate that. Mr. Miller Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Heim, thank you for your presentation. Just curious, you noted at the beginning of your presentation that these drivers have to have similar credentials to our school bus drivers. I'm curious about the training in which they would have to kind of partake in. I know that we've spoken in the past about ensuring that our bus drivers and assistants have ample training to ensure that they're able to deal with a variety of students that enter their bus from any given day. And I presume we would do the same for the van, well, the students who be riding the vans, and ensuring that those van drivers also have the opportunity to be trained. Could you speak a little bit about like what training they may receive?
So first of all, with the van drivers, alternative vehicle drivers, they're going to go through some defensive driving courses. So they're going to take some online courses, whereas most of the in service that our school bus drivers receive, and they receive class time instruction before they do their actual annual in service. So a school bus driver will go through a 3-day program as part of their certification process. And then once they're certified, then they do 6 hours of in service, 4 before the school year begins, and then 2 during the course of the school year. So just like the school bus drivers I just mentioned, our alternative vehicle drivers will do 6 hours of in service annually also, but the majority of theirs is done online with some of it actual in-class time, but the majority is done online, whereas opposed to the driving or the classroom instruction that our school bus drivers receive is mostly in person.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Any other questions, Ms. Smith? No? We good? Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Any other questions, board members? Nope. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Heim. Wonderful presentation. Appreciate it. All right. And next up, we have Dr. Linda Iverson, our Chief of Schools, who will give us a school climate update. And I believe, Dr. Iverson, you have some other presenters joining you. Yes, I see the names now. So if you could please introduce them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again. Thank you very much. Good evening, Board President Yarnell Moore-Lee, Vice President Kramer, members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Navarro, parents and community members. Thank you for this opportunity we have tonight to present to you on the school climate, culture, and safety. As you said, I am joined by several members who are also here joining me and pleased to share an overview of this great work we think we're doing and the progress related to school climate and safety in our district and across the schools. The names of the persons are listed here. As we get to their slide, each of them having one slide only, they will introduce themselves to you. Tonight, we're going to show you how this work is aligned with the Maryland State Department of Education Blueprint, as well as our district strategic plan, where we are mandated to provide for all of our students a safe, orderly, and caring environment for them, as well as improve their engagement in school and provide the necessary resources they need to be successful, to be college and career ready. You will also hear tonight as an example of a school that has some very keen strategies in place that they are using to foster a positive and safe school environment, and in our spotlight on Benjamin Stoddert Middle School. The presentation is going to move quickly through these 4 sections here, where we're going to highlight key initiatives, some data trends, partnerships, and the strategies we're implementing to foster the safe, inclusive, and supportive environment for all of our students and our staff. To ensure that we move through this presentation efficiently, I am asking that if you have questions, if they can be held to the very end of the PowerPoint. But if you have questions as we go along, please do not hesitate to put them in the chat and we will address them at the end. For the purpose of this presentation, I will tell you that I will be presenting data on climate and culture from the 2024-2025 full school year. In the appendix, though, I have included a slide that gives you this similar data just for the first quarter of the 2025-26 year. So with that, let's begin. And I have my first slide up. So what you see here is a historical perspective. And I love the title, Grounding the Work as a Point of Reference. And this is the percentage of students committing violations. If you notice, there are 3 years. It's a 3-year comparison. And you see years 22, 23, 23, 24, 24, 25. And you know, when I'm presenting data, I always say, just look at the color of the bars. So if you see at the bottom, there's a legend. The blue bar indicates no violations. The red bar indicates 1 to 2 violations, and the green bar, 3 or more. So looking at this 3-year comparison, you can kind of just see where we are as the district. If you look at years 22, 23, 23, 24, we're neck to neck there. You see the bars are exactly the same. During that year, 72% of our students in the district, both years, had no violations. On the red, 10%, and the green, 10, again, red is 1 to 2 violations, and the green, 3 or more. So those 2 years, the district was consistent. You didn't do better, but you didn't do worse. You look at last year, full year, you kind of can see the blue bar is a little longer, and I'll tell you why. I'll show you how that data moves. The blue bar now, we have this, last year you had as a district, 76% of our students had no violations. And that's the blue. The red, there were 14% who had 1 to 2. And the green was about 10%. What I'm showing you, though, is that blue bar got longer. The green bar got shorter. What that says is that those students here who had 3 or more violations decreased, and they moved in this bar here. So the movement is moving. That's a good trend, and it says that we're on the right page. So this is very interesting data. And if you look at the green, the red, and the blue, 2024 and 2025 total, there are over 90% of our students with either no violations or 1 to 2 violations. And that's another way of looking at the data in a very positive light. So what it indicates to us is that we're on the right track and we're doing something very, very positive here. Another way of looking at the historical hot buttons in terms of our data, we like to always look at where are these incidents happening, or what are the behaviors that our students are demonstrating and that's causing these violations. So again, you kind of have a similar pattern here. If you look at the legend below, it's a 3-year comparison giving you data for 3 years across. Blue being, again, 22, 23, so across, red, 23, 24, and so forth. If you look below the bars, it tells you the type and names of those violations. So from here, attacks, threats to fighting, these are the areas that we're having a lot of disruption, disrespect, disruption, dangerous substances, and weapons. What I will draw your attention to is 24, 25, the green bars, and kind of show you there where we are right as we left last year. In the fighting, we went down in this area, fighting decreased to some degree. We're kind of a little higher here in just disruption. And I have to tell you, we're hearing a lot about the disruption and disrespect. That's something we're working on in our schools, helping our students learn to manage emotions, peacefully coexist, problem solve better, and get along. And then we've had some instances here with substances and weapons. So this is the data for last year. We are just finishing Q1. We only have Q1 data for this year. I have included in the appendix a slide with that similar data there for the purpose of this presentation, but we wanted to focus on the full year data here. So now I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Michael Blanchard, and we're going to start getting into what are we doing to prevent it? How are we helping our students with some restorative sort of practices? And how are we meeting their emotional and social emotional needs to help them peacefully coexist and make better decisions? Dr. Blanchard.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Mike Blanchard. I'm the Director of Student Services for the Charles County Public Schools. So you're looking at the chart of our current full-time positions. So there's some pieces of it that I'm very excited about and pieces that we're trying to address. So in July of 2024, we were short 16 school counselors and social workers. We've now moved that to 6.5. So we're very excited that we're recruiting and retaining qualified personnel to provide more supports in our buildings. As you can see here, the area we're most concerned about right now is a shortage of 7 school psychologists. We have active recruiting processes currently taking place. We would like to shrink that gap. School psychologists are very difficult to find in this climate. There's a tremendous need and less people being produced to our schools. So we're having to go out and reach out, not only here in our state and other states. So please also, if people come across people that have an interest in school psychology and working in a dynamic district like Charles County Public Schools, please let us know and we'll certainly reach out to them and talk to them. You can also see some of our additional initiatives that we've been working on. In the appendices, there's actually data linked to many of these. For example, youth and adult mental health first aid training. You will see the numbers we produced from last year. We're continuing youth mental health first aid this year in all our Health 1 classes at all 7 of our high schools. We're doing restorative practices training. We have 8 schools currently with some restorative practices work taking place. And we just got some grant funding through Title IV. Yes, there is some federal funding still out there to get some more materials for restorative practices. We're still doing Move This World, BARC. If people remember, BARC is just an early warning system for students who may write concerning materials in their Microsoft accounts. Signs of suicide, we are now downward extending. And thank you, school board. We won an award last year. And from that award, we got some money. And we're using that to do signs of suicide at our middle school level, which is the first time we're doing that. And in addition, as everyone is aware, the consortium grant continues in these 4 different programs are running through the consortium grant. We are guardedly optimistic that the consortium grant will also be offered next year. Thank you.
All right, this is my slide. I'm Charmaine Young-Waddy. I'm the Director for Student Engagement and Conduct, also the hearing officer. So a lot of things that we deal with are these 3 primary categories: attendance, discipline, and dropout prevention. For preventative measures, we do a lot of support before the students actually get to us for attendance or discipline, particularly dropout prevention. So we try to intervene early and often to prevent that student from coming to our table. So as you can see, for attendance, one of the things that we're partnering with, or we have partnered with, is the Office for FACE Academy, which is through Tracy Chappellier's office, where they're looking at community engagement. We have been trying to get this pilot program off the ground for several years with the state's attorney's office. And, there have been some challenges over the years with, getting it up and running. But this year we are up and running through Benjamin Middle School. They are piloting that program for students who are chronically absent, who have had a history of being chronically absent. So what we're doing is trying to capture them before it impedes their academic abilities, their ability to be promoted to the next grade level. And it offers a partnership with the state's attorney's office that includes mentoring through Stella's Girls, so that they go through a 10-week course, 10-week class, and there's a graduation ceremony for them that includes also incentives that encourage attendance. And then they'll rotate into the next group after that 10 weeks. So our daily operational things, as you see, when we have those students who are not part of the CAT program, but we are noticing that they're having some attendance issues, Mr. Gammons or myself will be going out to schools, have gone out to schools to talk to students and families to say, hey, do you realize when your kid doesn't come to school, this is what happens? Do you understand those strategies of how to get your kids to school, which is also what we talked about at the FACE Academy that was held at Billingsley back in September. So, but when students do come to us with 20 or more absences, we do an official attendance review. And then Mr. Gammons continues the revisions of attendance review plans, meeting with school teams, talking about interventions that could be housed there. But if we see that there is no improvement, our last resort is the state's attorney's office for truancy. But that is our last effort when all other resources have failed. For discipline, preventative, we do the same thing. Schools call us to consult, on behaviors, infractions, to see what's going on. We do a lot of behind the scenes meeting with school teams to discuss interventions and to review those intervention plans. And sorry about that, to also get to the site of where are we? We know that we're dealing with a lot of community-based issues, and with those community-based issues, some of the things we just are struggling to address because it is community-based filtering back into our schools. So I've encouraged the school teams to do some SINs, child in need of supervision, where I have actually been subpoenaed to court because they're looking at the truancy portion of it and the activity that is increasing in the community. So we do a lot of that work. We do a lot of work with, discussing before you suspend a student to the superintendent. Have you looked at an SST, a tier 3 intervention? Have you looked at, let's say, opt-in at STEAM, things of that nature? Because we also fund through Title IV grants. We look at Renew, which is a tier 3 intervention. And Renew is very scripted. It's evidence-based. And so I have worked with the STEAM team to get as many staff members there trained, and it's a one-on-one facilitator model where they're mapping out what works, what doesn't work, their goals, when they recognize their triggers and things of that nature. So it's a lot of wraparound support as a preventative measure to reduce the behavioral infractions, increase attendance, and improve academic engagement. So those are some of the preventative things. And then the daily operations are attendance reviews and or discipline hearings. Our discipline hearing schedule has been pretty consistent. What we're dealing with right now is very consistent to what we've dealt with over the years, your chronic behavior, your chronic disruption, your drugs, things of that nature. We're not at the fighting level as where we were last year, but we have worked really, really hard with the school teams to try to separate clusters of students with similar behaviors so that we can try to include a much more safe and orderly environment. So the ongoing support that we have when we have students who are struggling with substance abuse issues and they've come to us and they have been disciplined by the school team or they need to be disciplined by us, we offer a first-time offenders class through the Title IV grant where they actually attend a class on a Saturday morning for 2 hours with their parent. Then on top of that, we partner with the sheriff's office, and partner with the sheriff's office gives them that extra support when it comes to recognize those early warning signs of substance abuse and the educational component that needs to go along with it. And then we refer the families to mental health support if they feel like they need more community-based resources after our class. And then the Renew program, which is the evidence-based program that's offered at STEAM, as a way of trying to encourage improved behaviors, relationships, goals, and grades and attendance and things of that nature. So dropout prevention, that's an ongoing effort because dropout prevention actually begins in pre-K when we start noticing students who are not attending school, but we really focused on kindergarten through 12th grade. So there's a lot of plans on the elementary level that talk about behaviors and that talk about academic struggles and how the behaviors could be the manifestation of maybe not understanding how to read or write or whatever, those things like that, the academic struggles. So we work with the school teams where we do a lot of school visits with parents and partnering with different departments to reach the goals once we actually see what's going on. And then the ongoing support, Mr. Gammas, as of the 17th of November, has visited 650 students that are either out of cohort or they are struggling to meet their academic success plans that have been established. Usually that's going to be for secondary students, primarily high schools, but I do some of the middle school visits when we're looking at alternatives to suspensions and alternatives to, sending to us and those early warning indicators for dropout prevention. But Mr. Gammas has been focusing heavily on the high school to try to get our students to meet that 4 or 5 year cohort, because when you do not graduate within 4 years from the date that you enter school or 5 years upon entering school, you're considered as a dropout. So we're trying to look at what is going on and how do we create opportunities within the parameters already established through Charles County Public Schools to help those students reach success. So there's a lot of work that goes into that, and it's an ongoing plan. And that's all I have for my slide.
So good evening, everyone, and I am Tracy Chapelier-Thomas, and I'm the Director of Community Engagement and Equity, and I'm going to speak to you about family and community engagement as it applies to the strategic plan Goal 4 to build strong collaborative partnerships with families in the community to support student learning, well-being, and success. The very first metric that we're going to talk about is growth in positive family feedback regarding engagement with the school environment. The idea is that we want to ensure that all families feel welcomed, supported, and valued, ensure communication is clear, culturally responsive, and easy to understand. So with that, in the spring of 2026, CCPS and the Department of Community Engagement and Equity will design and conduct a family climate survey using the insights gathered to inform and enhance the school improvement planning process this coming summer. What that looks like, some of the questions that we will be asking or looking to find out, their perceptions on school and district events, positive conference experiences, effective two-way communication between families and schools, cultural heritage recognitions, informal gatherings where families can ask questions, share concerns, and build relationships. Second metric is enhanced opportunities for students and families and the community in decision-making processes and initiatives. This will create more inclusive and accessible ways for students, families, and community members to have a voice in decisions at a school level and a district level that affect their lives and their education. So during the 2025-2026 school year, CCPS is gathering baseline data to assess current school practices and determine whether families and students feel heard and if their feedback results in meaningful action. Some of the groups that we are looking at are PTO, which is Parent Teacher Organization, or PTSO, Parent Teacher Student Organization, DADvisory, any family and student advocacy groups, program advisory councils, or PACs for our CTE programs, committees, school improvement planning teams, town halls, and inclusive school improvement teams. And then last, we are going to expand opportunities for family and community engagement to support student learning. We want to create more ways for families and our community members to get involved in supporting students' education and success. So throughout the 2025 and 2026 school year, we are collecting data to evaluate existing opportunities within our schools and across the district for families and community members to be actively supporting student learning. What that will look like for us is some examples are the FACE Academy, the Family and Community Engagement Academy, special education brick by brick workshops, school-based workshops, community resource events, volunteer opportunities, mentorships, tutoring initiatives, parent-led workshops, and school beautification projects. We will also look at newsletters, social media, emails, school apps, website analytics, school messenger and talking points, as well as family resources in Canvas and Clever, Title I resources, and then community school resources as well. Thank you.
I'm trying to move it. It's not moving. There we go. We are now going to have the presentation by Benjamin Stoddert Middle School, Ms. Peavy, the principal.
Good evening, everyone, and Dr. Iverson, thank you for including me in your presentation. I do have with me two of my other team members who will be available for questions at the end, Ms. Jamia Hicks, science teacher at Benjamin Stoddert Middle School, and Ms. Davina Putz, our school psychologist, who are integral members of our Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports program, in addition to our coordinator, Mr. Evans, who's not joining us this evening, but he is another one of our integral members. Next slide, please. You can go ahead and advance. Thank you. So in school year 24-25, we decided that a PBIS shift was needed. I met with the core PBIS team, the members that I just mentioned, and we really assessed what we felt was working and what wasn't, and what we really wanted to get out of a program, and that includes positive behavior supports. What was working is we had scholars who were eager to earn individual reward points. That's great. We had a rewards app that was pretty user-friendly. And we had some events and activities that we had cultivated that our scholars really wanted to attend, and some were highly anticipated. One, for example, we had a go-go concert, right? And so our students really wanted to attend that, staff too, I will say. So there were some things that we were doing that were working. However, what we felt was that there were some aspects that weren't working. So in middle school, as you might imagine, getting a little prize isn't as fun as it is in elementary school, or a sticker. That's just not something that middle school students want. And so while the points worked for some kids, it didn't work for all. Some teachers consistently gave points, others did not. We tried a variety of things to do that, but I think really the buy-in was what we were looking for and what we were lacking. And then we noticed that when we had our reward activities, because you had to earn your way there by these points, the same scholars were able to attend or were disqualified based on different behaviors that they were displaying negatively that we wanted to curb. And so what we decided we wanted as a first step, we just really wanted collective efficacy, but we needed it from staff, students, and parents alike. And in that, we really wanted something that was a goal-oriented program, a program that really had a shared belief system across those groups I mentioned, and really we could tap into our student leaders and staff leaders as well. Next slide, please. So how it works. So you can see what our staff see when they log into the reward app. It's our house system that's through the Ron Clark Academy. You can see there are 7 houses at Benjamin Stoddert Middle School, and everyone is in a house. So scholars and staff can earn points but never lose points. That is our cafeteria workers, that's our building service, our parents are in a house because their students are in a house. Some are in a house divided if they have 2 students. Our secretaries, we're all there. You can earn individual rewards, but also there is a huge drive for a collective reward, or the leaderboard that you see there, to be at the top with your housemates. Our houses are comprised of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, so it's mixed. It's not just based on certain homeroom or anything like that. So you have some built-in mentorship there as well, and then a variety of different types of staff members that are a part of it. Next slide, please. So about the houses. So the draw here is, of course, we talked about wanting this collective efficacy and really the sense of community. And to establish that, you are in a house with others, but your house is very unique and has a culture that was needed to be established. So each house has a color, a crest, a chant, a hand signal, an animal, a heritage. Like I mentioned, there are student and staff leaders. Our students applied for and were selected to be the leaders of their houses through an application and interview process. And then each house has its own unique events and initiatives. What's different about the events and initiatives that are created through our house system is that they don't all have to be the same. If House Rever, which happens to be my house, decides to have to initiate a World Dream Day activity, for example, and our students and staff are spearheading that, that doesn't mean that another house has to do that. Perhaps another house will do a food drive, which is something that just recently happened. So we have these initiatives, events that our student leaders can get involved with and our staff. And then we also have celebration activities that don't have to look the same for every grade level or every house, but those elements are all there. Next slide. So here's an example of our house, of course, mine. I had to highlight. As you can see, I have my blue on, so I'm ready to go. We are the House of Dreamers, and we mentioned there's a crest and all of those different things you see there. You can see our hand signal, which 2 crescent moons that go with it. Blue is our color. We're from France. Kids get to learn a little bit about a culture, right? It's a different country or different region that they learn about. And then we have our symbolic animal. We have a unicorn or a wolf as the dreamers. And so that is something that you can build that culture within with students. You're okay, Dr. Iverson. Thank you if you were advancing. And so, like, for example, when I walk down the hallway, I'll have a 6th grader kind of yell down the hallway to me and throw up their hand signal so they know that I'm in their house, right? Like, we do that. We have events that are House Mania days, where we all dress in colors. And if I had a wolf hat on the one day, we all kind of really get into it. And in terms of why it works, honestly, these 5 pillars right here, we have 100% staff buy-in. Our staff are as excited about these houses as the students. We are all in it. We argue about who's on the top. I will say in Q1, Rever was the top, but it shifted. It had shifted. And so we argue about it. And that's what brings the fun for scholars too, when they see the staff getting involved and repping their colors. Our staff shirts, those were all in-house colors as well, and they have the crest on the back. Our staff and students alike engage in culture and climate activities to team build, right? We do that. We start our year as staff in pre-service week with a culture and climate day, and that's what it's really about. And we do the same for scholars so that we can kind of build that culture. Number two, also, it really just fosters a sense of belonging. You belong to something when you're at Benjamin Stoddert Middle School. You have your house. You may also be a sixth grader. You may also be on the volleyball team. But if you are not on, for example, a sports team, maybe that's just not for you, you have your house. You have built in mentors and staff members that are outside of your teachers that you see daily that can help you and that they're there. And we have collective student efficacy. Because we have students leading the charge here and running what are quarterly house meetings to talk about the data in their houses and who has the most points and where are some areas they're lacking. It really does build that collective student efficacy and buy-in on their part. And it means that instead of it just being the same students who are earning points all the time, we see some different students pop up because they want to be the top, right? They want to also support their house, and they're rewarded too when their house is rewarded. So they get to be a part of something, and your house members are meant to uplift you, right? And then we have group and individual rewards. So those scholars who earn a ton of points, maybe they got principal's honor roll, you can get points for that. Maybe they get a ton of points throughout the day. They're rewarded as being top point earners. For example, our eighth graders just had a reward activity last week for being the top 2 point earners. But then we have group rewards as well. As I mentioned, after quarter one, Rever went to the bowling alley. There were some students who never bowled before. We also had some, I would say, professional bowlers that were there that brought their own ball and shoes. But we were all there. We had, at that same time, the other houses had their house meetings. And so we have the group reward as well, and everybody is invited to that, and everybody's a part of the group reward for their house. And then lastly, we make sure that it's really rooted in fun and creativity. I remembered that Dr. Navarro mentioned that when she and the sheriff met with students last year, they talked about where's the recess in middle school, right? So I think about the fact that these are kids, right? They're kids still, and they want to have fun. And so we can be creative and silly. And thankfully, our staff are right on board with doing that as well. And we just are really creative and let it be flexible how we reward our students and what we do to really support their positive behaviors. And then we just really got started last school year, but we saw huge results already. So our Maryland report card for school year 24-25 showed improvement in all of those areas: bullying, emotional safety, participation and engagement, physical environment, physical safety, staff-student relationships, and student-student relationships. Those were all improved areas, which certainly helped our star rating improve, which I was very, very proud of course. And then we were also, after the first quarter, we were in the top 10 schools for reducing suspensions for students who receive special education services as compared to last year. So I think that also speaks volumes to after we just implemented this program last year, got off the ground, and then this year we really are all in the difference that it has made.
Mr. Stoddert.
Well, good evening, everybody. I am your caboose for this presentation. That is pretty amazing work, Miss Peavy. That's the first time I've ever seen that. Thank you very much. But that was pretty amazing for what you guys are doing there. So for those of you who I have not met, I'm Jason Stoddert. I'm the Director of Safety and Security for the school system. I think it's important to understand that how our office fits into this whole thing. While we look at the title of our piece of the organization as it relates to the safety part, safety is an emotion. And while we are not in charge or oversee student behaviors, we are an integral partner and collaborate with everybody that you've already heard from tonight. And the security piece of what we do, can be proven. Our office is in charge of the physical security and access control of our buildings, as well as emergency management, training, and employee and volunteer screening. So we do a lot of things that stay in the background, which is where we'd prefer to be most of the time. Because to be quite honest with you, the best security that we have out there is the stuff that we don't see or the stuff that we just do because it's the right thing to do. So in years past, during this presentation, we've gone over things like our Youth Engagement Advocate Program. We've also gone over our partnerships with the Sheriff's Office. So this year, we really wanted to focus on some of the outside school safety partners that we are working with, starting with the Maryland Center for School Safety that was created in 2018. with the Safe to Learn Act, as well as our longtime partners, which everybody in this office, everybody that's presented tonight speaks with as well, which is MSTE. Lastly, or next, the I Love You Guys Foundation, which is a nonprofit group that was founded out of Colorado after the tragic loss of a child. I am so proud to say that we instituted the I Love You Guys Foundation standard response protocols in 2019, well ahead of the state suggestion. If you'll notice, there was several very large organizations in the state which just recently moved to I Love You Guys Foundation standard response protocols, which we have had in place for a number of years. The Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, which we use considerably because they offer a tremendous amount of training resources for both my staff as well as our youth engagement advocates. The National Council for School Safety Directors, a fairly new organization which was stood up about a year and a half ago, which is the largest organization in the world that represents school safety directors and brings school safety directors from around the country together to collaborate, network, and discuss, because it can be, quite frankly, a pretty lonely space, especially when you don't think that there's anybody out there doing your job or responsible for the things that you're responsible for. And the last one is ASIS, which is an organization that is the largest physical security organization in the world. We partner with them as it relates to professional credentialing standards and things like that. Again, a worldwide organization that we're able to network with a number of people from outside of just the Charles County area or the police or whatever else. The last thing that I'll say is school safety is a very unique vertical. It is something that is not like law enforcement. It is not like securing courthouses, and it's not like securing airports. So it is imperative that we partner with as many people that are working in this space, that have expertise in this space, and bring as many folks together. It is, again, we pride ourselves on the fact that we have an amazing and long-lasting relationship with the Charles County Sheriff's Office that dates back to 1999. However, as again, this is a very unique space to be in, and being able to work with folks who have been in these spaces for a number of years, who specialize in these spaces, helps us all to do better to protect our 29,000 babies and our 4,700 staff members that come to work every day, that expect and that have a right to a place where they can learn and feel safe. With that, I will finish up, and I think we can go on to questions. Dr. Iverson, I return it to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone who presented. We did condense a lot of information in the slides. I want to bring to the attention of the board and all those listening to this presentation that in the appendix are additional slides that can further explain that connect with most of the slides we have here. We wanted to give you the basic information and put in the appendix additional information if you would need that as well. So we do want to open it up to questions and answers. We can go to, I see in the chat there are 7 questions. I will moderate that and go to the chat and see if there are any questions. If not, certainly we can go with, yes, I will stop sharing. We can, Shelley, are you going to navigate that or me? I can do that.
Dr. Iverson, if you want to do that, I'm okay with it.
Okay, I certainly can, not a problem. So first, let's see if there are any hands in the audience. Then I'll go to the chat. Are there any hands raised?
There's some hands raised, Dr. Iverson.
Okay, you'll take care of that. Go right
Yes,
ahead.
ma'am, I will. First, let me say thank you. This was an excellent presentation, a lot of great information. I know we condensed it, but we still hit many of the highlights. I also, if our student member, I see some hands, but if our student member has anything, I can either call on you first or last, Ms. Obanali. I know this is, especially around the school safety piece, that was one of the things that we heard consistently from the students as one of their top 3 concerns. And shout out to Principal Peavy and Benjamin Stoddert. You are doing incredible work, ma'am. I can certainly testify to that firsthand, just from the very first day. Like when we went for, the, even before school had started, orientation, and how you set the stage and the fun and friendly rivalry. And the key, I think, is just what you said. The staff really has full buy-in into this. They were in their colors. They were trash talking. They were challenging each other. It was remarkable. My son is in House Protos. He was initially very stressed because they were straddling the fence between, 6th to 7th, and now they've shot up to 3rd. And I know how the students don't want to be late, and they, they want to be punctual and want to be in attendance and all the things, because those points mean a lot to them. And it is building that that team spirit and that sense of community. And I love that it's across all grades, including staff. So everyone feels like they have friends, which of course helps some of those behaviors. So very, very well done. That is fantastic. Miss Obanali, stand by, colleagues. Would you like me to, if you all are okay, I'll start with the student first, and then I see Miss Jamila Smith. All right. Yes, go ahead, Wenatchee. Thank you.
Thank you. Um, so I thought that this was a really nice presentation because for one thing that I've noticed, people think that like even in the high school level, like sometimes these games like do a lot for behavior. Like when I was in ninth grade, we had this activity. It was with Romeo and Juliet, and you could like snitch on your classmates if they were doing the wrong thing. And students got so into it, like they were so excited. And even even now, I know that our AP Lit class, I'm not in it, but I've heard from upperclassmen that they are doing this thing around 1989, and they have like the Big Brother character. So if you're on your phone in class or you're on your phone in the hallways, you can get reported to Big Brother and then you lose points for your team. So I thought that was really interesting. But I do think that games like this, they tend to really boost like student engagement and like participation in things. And in addition to that, it just helps their behavior because you are held accountable to somebody. Sometimes when you're only accountable for your own behavior as students, we tend to slack off. But knowing that if I don't do the right thing, my peers are also affected, it means a lot. And it's not to the extent where it's like a group punishment, it's just like a group loss, which I think is better because I know that probably a lot of people can relate to like your classmates are doing something wrong, so then your whole class like loses recess time. But this is kind of like a different aspect of that, where it's more so like, well, you're just not really winning, if that makes sense. So I just really like that. Like Miss Morley was saying, we did have a lot of students concerned about safety and student behavior. I don't think I kind of missed that part of the presentation because of my technical difficulties, but I if you could elaborate on that part of the presentation because I missed it a little bit, just like a brief description because I was looking through it and I wanted to just hear from um your perspective.
I'm sorry, your question again?
I just wanted to hear about the student safety portion of the presentation because I kind of missed that part.
I think that was Mr. Stoddard.
Yeah, Mr.
Uh,
Yeah.
Stoddard.
Here's the best way that I can explain it. That student safety is an emotion. It is much like if you're afraid of spiders, there's nothing that I'm going to say to ever make you change your mind as far as whether people feel safe or not. As it relates to the security piece and how those things kind of combine, when it comes to security, I can show you and present to you the things that we are doing to create a secure environment. It is up to everybody to collectively buy in on that or enroll in that. I'll use that phrase because I think everybody, I'm not selling you anything. I need everybody's participation to understand the importance of everybody understanding the security piece of things so that they do feel safer. We are constantly reviewing that data that came out that Ms. Peavy talked about, to look at what are the things that we can do to make or to allow kids to feel safer. And quite frankly, the one piece that I can tell you that we need is we need our students, all of our students, to be talking about the good things that we're doing. It is amazing that you hear today, and we heard last year when we did this presentation, 90 to 92% of our kids are in schools for the right reasons, and they're getting 2 or fewer referrals every year, and we see that year over year after year, as Dr. Iverson said. We spend 90% of our time talking about 10% of our student population. They get a tremendous amount of supports. However, those 90 to 92% of those kids, they're also victims of school-based violence and school-based disorder, and we're not talking about them. And we need all of you together to be talking about all the great things that you're doing, all the things that Ms. Peavy talked about that they're doing with their houses. Every school is its own house as well. And quite frankly, a vast majority of our children are amazing kids doing amazing things, but we don't hear about them enough, and we need to
Yeah.
hear, because I think that will also help to really paint the picture, the more accurate picture of what is going on inside of our schools, which is a lot of success and a lot of amazing things because of you and because of our amazing employees.
Okay. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I really like that idea. I really like this presentation. That's really cool. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. That puts into perspective for me because I kind of missed that part. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it really does kind of touch on student concerns because a lot of the time students are just like, well, what is the county doing about safety? I don't feel safe going to school. I don't feel safe. But it's also like the students also play a role in how safe they are going to feel at school. Obviously, there are external factors that they cannot control, but a good part of it is student behavior and how, and it kind of goes to show how they're going to feel at school. So that is really good that this addresses that. I love when stuff that Charles County is already trying to implement kind of addresses student concerns because then it's easy to highlight for students. But thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Obanali. And I wholeheartedly agree with what you said and also what Mr. Stoddard shared. I do believe overall that our schools are definitely safe. We do have some challenges. We can't shrink from those. We can't sweep them under the rug. We must address them. But it is always great to reinforce that over 90% of our students consistently make the right choices. And I think that is the bigger messaging that we need to be reinforcing. Two things can be true. All right. Thank you for your patience, Ms. Jamila Smith.
No, no worries. Thank you, Madam Chair. Definitely want to echo the conversation that Ms. Obanali and Mr. Stoddard just had, just in terms of student agency in feeling safe and kind of they too have a responsibility and a role in ensuring the safety of their building, their classmates themselves. But of course, as the adults, we ultimately are responsible. So definitely appreciate hearing that conversation and some of those sentiments. So thank you, Ms. Obanali. Um, Madam Chair, I also agree with you just in terms of really appreciate Dr. Iverson's slide that highlighted that it's the majority of students are doing the right things. The majority of students are not receiving citations or violations, not citations, but violations of any type. It really is just a select few. And the fact that we have a variety of strategies in which to combat issues when they arise, but also to address them before they arise, I think was very important for the public. And of course, myself as a board member to be able to hear. So definitely appreciate your presentation. I have a few questions. Dr. Iverson, in one of the slides, you noted some data around disrespect and disruptions. I know that can be seen as subjective. So I'm just curious, like, how are we delineating between, a student that's having kind of a crisis, and it's just a moment to, a student that's cursing out the teacher and kind of destroying the classroom, and students have to be removed from that environment. Like, how are we delineating between those two, and helping our educators to kind of understand, okay, well, this is something that needs to be documented versus, this is something where I probably just need to engage like the school psychologist or the pupil personnel worker just to help them sort of work through some emotions they're currently experiencing versus the higher end of actually writing them up.
Right. Very good question. So, we have a code of conduct in our district, and I love the code of conduct in that it is progressive in nature, and it kind of lists the 5 levels of progression of behavior. And what it does is it's to allow the teacher and the student to engage in not just the discipline, but teaching the student how to re-engage to stay within the classroom. So our expectation is that our staff and our buildings first do that. We want to keep students in the class as much as possible. So, we want our teachers to engage them and to look at the levels and differentiate what really needs to come or needs to go to the principal and what is, and it's clear in the code of conduct examples of the kind of behaviors that we expect our teachers to handle within the classroom. So they have some guidance there. So that is the first thing they would use in determining whether this is an infraction that needs to go to the principal and so forth. Because a lot of times it's just that engagement with the teacher in the classroom with the student, a lot of this can be circumvented. And Ms. Peavy, did you want to add anything how you do that?
And I can add as well, Dr. Iverson.
Okay, sure.
Hi. So yes, definitely we do differentiate between lower level disruption and disrespect and what is considered more major. In Synergy, in our learning management system where we manage school discipline, our teachers can refer those minor instances that maybe aren't showstoppers. That's how we talk about it with our teachers. If it's stopping your instruction, it's bigger than a moment. We can't deal with it during class at the teacher level. and it requires some intervention from the administrator. Our teachers can refer those, and those can accrue over time, and there can be small interventions that we can utilize. When it's a major disruption or disrespect, that's when we really take a look at the disposition more carefully in terms of the administrative side of that.
I would say, Miss, I had asked a similar question, Miss Young-Wadi. Is that what you wanted to address
I think
in the
Ms.
chat?
Young-Wadi wanted to jump in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the other things, for example, Miss Peavy, she'll call me and she'll paint the picture. I always tell them paint the picture because I'm not there. So what happened, what initiated the response of the student, how did the student respond to things of that nature? And then we talk through, this is probably the best way to handle that, knowing the student's history, or if I'm looking at the student's history. So those are times where administrators, when they're uncertain, based on what you're saying, is it a low-lying situation where they can handle it with the school counselor or their school psychologist, or is it something that needs to move to the next level? What does that look like? And moving to the next level doesn't always mean they're going to be suspending to me, but they're consulting. And so when we're looking at that, I'm saying, okay, have you talked to the behavioral specialist? Because this seems to be maybe a possible pattern. I think you need to refer for some community-based support through the local care team for mental health support, because there's some progression of behaviors that are maybe not isolated in a particular incident, but they're kind of meshing because you can see a pattern. For example, we had a student the other day who had some behavioral challenges. And during our meeting, the school psychologist asked a question about some reading skills when she started going back and looking at the documentation. And that's when she realized that if the student may have had some challenges early on with maybe reading comprehension and things of that nature, it's kind of masked itself now as disruptive behavior as they've gotten older. So then there were some things that she recommended that the school team goes back to maybe revisit to add some level of support interventions, which would hopefully address those types of classroom disruptive behaviors, because those disruptive behaviors, some of them, not all, stem from that student's earlier challenges with academics. So there is a lot of consultation.
Yes, and well, 1 second, pardon me, Ms. Smith. I just want to be mindful of time.
I just had like 2 other questions. Is that all right?
Yeah,
because I only got a chance to ask one. I can be brief.
if you could do maybe one, because we have 3 other hands raised.
Not a problem. I can do that.
I appreciate it.
So actually, I will turn my one question into a comment. Noted that for spring of 26, we intend to do a family survey. Not certain if there's a way for us to engage families in the design and testing of that survey before it goes out, but that would be a recommendation. My question, Ms. Young-Wadi, was actually about the chronic absenteeism. I understand what the definition is by state standards. Is there anything that we're doing as a county to watch for students who are typically removed from school early? Like those who are like 2 or 3 times a week, their parents are signing them out before school actually ends, which can also be disruptive to instruction.
Yes, that is what the PPWs work with Mr. Gammons on. When we see those pattern of behaviors where they're constantly being released from school, whether they have mental health problems, mental health appointments, or they're sick or whatever, Mr. Gammons and the PPWs closely monitor that, because once it gets to a certain level, we have what we call a PPW flow chart that provides guidance to the school team as to when when the classroom teacher reaches out, when the school counselor reaches out, when the PPW reaches out, and when those level of interventions should happen and what should happen during those stages.
Much appreciated.
And they also monitor the number of tardy students have to school, because we do have a lot of schools where students walk. So they do monitor the excessive tardies as well, so we can address that.
Okay. Madam Chair, I can drop the rest of my questions in the chat.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. We were scheduled to be finished at 6:17. I don't see a world where that's going to happen. I know. 6:17. Yes, ma'am.
Not sure how that got scheduled.
Yeah. Well, in theory, it was a brief agenda, but presentations such as this always are going to bring a lot of questions and a lot of thoughtful discussion. So colleagues, I ask if you please could limit your questions to your top 2. Feel free to drop in the chat. We can circle back. We can have information shared in the weekly news, et cetera, et cetera. Ms. Butler-Washington.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is to Mr. Blanchard. I saw all of the outlets that you have for the students and what you with school provides for them, but I know I mentioned this last year and the year before, a team peer role. I'm going to emphasize on that because when we see the blue line that majority of our students are doing very well, no incidents or anything, this is to me could be a very well time where we can use those students to help us with problem solving, helping the students stay organized, navigate peer pressure, or also improving the attendance because of class routines. We can have those students help us with this small to me, where we having these issues with behavior in our schools. So if we could just think about, these students, the parents are giving them well guided resources that they use to help them stay on task, that they won't get in any trouble. So I know students learn better from themselves because they can look back and ask and see how they modeled themselves at school, and they will say to themselves, hey, it working for them, it could work for me. And we don't know that every child is getting the same um, guidance at home than others. So if other students can help them with that, it would better help us. So I'm asking you, Mr. Blanchard, is there something in the future that they will, start instituting team peer roles within, especially in high school? I think is very, very prevalent for them to be able to do that.
Well, we do it in a number of different ways, but yes, we can certainly continue to look at that. For example, when we talk about teen mental health first aid, really the focus of it, and also with signs of suicide, is teaching the students the skills to recognize when one of their colleagues or one of their peers is struggling with something, and then what are some skills they can bring to that to ask for help and support, and even coach them through some individual issues. So we tried to provide some support and some structure for the students to then be able to reach out and support the other students. But yes, we can certainly continue to look at peer-related supports that could be put into place.
Okay, and thank you for that. And Madam Chair, I just want to say this last thing. When been in the military, traveling for 25 years, one of the biggest things that the military taught us is, especially going overseas, because your child does not get a 1, 2, 3, and that's it. Your child get a one incident and he has to be shipped back to the United States. So what they taught us was we have parents that know that students are having difficulties. We as parents go talk to the other parents and we engage them. We bring them along so they can know what our students know, and then they begin to talk to our students, and then whatever issues they're going through, they usually talk to our kids, and they can help them navigate, of course, with our help a little bit, to be able to help that student get along. So the rate was that no child gets sent back to the United States. And to have that instituted into the school, and we shared it with parents that maybe, don't have the bandwidth to help their child, they reach out to another parent who are doing well, their child is doing well in school, and they are able to help them navigate that. Because I can tell you truly, I did not raise my son all alone. It was the military who helped me, because as a young parent, I did not know all the tools or whatever. So I leaned on them, learned it from them, and I was able to help my child move along, through school and stuff. So given those atmospheres and given those attributes, we can be able to share that in school to tell parents, you don't have to do this alone. So that's something that the military taught me. So I just wanted to share it with you all to let you know how it helped me. So thank you.
Thank you. And I think a lot of that, and Ms. Chapler-Thomas has addressed and is certainly welcome to add. A lot of that, I think, is what Face Academy is demonstrating, is replicating, is encouraging parents to feel like they have additional support. And also, I know that the Advisory Council has been doing a lot of that as well. So yes, thank you. Vice Chair Kramer.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to first say kudos again to Stoddert for all the work that you've done in your school climate and with the whole house initiative. I think is just such a great thing. I had the opportunity to attend your block party, and it was a huge turnout. And that really, to me, is a testament of the work that you've done for community engagement with your school communities. And the fact that staff is bought in as well just also says a lot. So again, kudos to you. I may or may not have been recruited into a couple of houses, but from what I understand, the house chooses you. So I'll get back to that. Yes. from what I understand. So I need to learn a little more, but definitely love the concept and clearly is working for you all. So congratulations on that. So I just had two questions, which I think are both probably for Ms. Young-Wadi. One question was about barriers. What type of barriers are we seeing to students? And I know you said it's an ongoing thing. It really starts at the early childhood phase for students completing school within their cohort. Are you able to speak to that a little bit, Ms. Young-Wadi, as some of the commonalities that we're seeing that maybe we would help us to kind of address them early?
So some of the commonalities that I feel that we may see is a lack of engagement once they have already been retained. So once they have, let's say, been retained in elementary school and they receive another retention in middle school, sometimes it's harder to get them to buy in when we get them to high school. So that is one of the issues that I see. And then sometimes it's parent buy-in on those earlier levels. The importance of attendance and staying on top of the academics early on, or just their ability to understand, what it really means in the long run. So then we are trying to play catch up by the time they get to high school because, some of our elementary students who've had some challenges, those challenges transfer over to middle school, so that value placed on education kind of diminishes. So by the time they get to high school, it is a challenge just for that sheer effort of motivation. Then the challenge comes when, let's say, they have been involved in community-based activities, and then there's a lot of involvement, and then there are suspensions that increase their chances of not being promoted because they're suspended, but then they don't do the work while they're home. So there's a quite a few different variables that we try to track. But the one thing is that level of engagement and trying to address those behaviors earlier on, those elementary and middle school levels. So by the time they get to maybe seventh grade, we're seeing fewer retentions and then more services that allows us to really capture these kids. So I don't know if that happens through more credit recovery options, things of that nature, but we are constantly having those conversations with the high school principals to talk about what we can do. I hope I answered your question.
You did. Thank you, Ms. Young-Wadi. Yeah, and as you're talking, the theme that I'm hearing is with the engagement is, students and probably parents kind of get discouraged, right? So if their child gets, so far behind or now I've been retained. So I think you're right. So we need to focus on kind of not letting it get to that point. And so I do think perhaps, more grade recovery options, more opportunities to make sure that they're tracking, their parents are tracking their students' progress, so that we don't get to that point where it's like, oh well, there's nothing else we can do but retain your student, because that always saddens me to hear when kids kind of lose interest in school because they feel like, well, what's the point, I'm already so far behind, I can't graduate with my friends, etc. So would love to hear more about the work that we're doing, the preventative work there. And then I had one other question. It was a slide 28 in the appendix rather, is about community meetings, it says, that are in the works. But I was just curious about that and wanted to know, I don't know if that's you, Ms. Young-Wadi, or not. Can't remember now whose slide that was, but it was slide 28. If anybody can shed some light on what that might look like. All right.
That might be Jason Stoddert when it comes to community partners and things of that nature. I can tell you what we're partnering with the state's attorney's office with the truancy.
Yep.
That is going to capture families and students to encourage regular attendance, because then regular attendance improves academics. So that's one of the partnerships. I have partnerships with the sheriff's office, which is with the Hope trailer, to help families be more cognizant of what they need to be looking for when it comes to substances and things of that nature. I partner with Teen Court, which gives a lot of kids opportunities to volunteer, to get firsthand experience on being a student mentor to someone else who's made some decisions that were, got them to Teen Court. And then also the local care team with the mental health services. I'm on the coordinating juvenile councils board, which is looking at pretrial services to, just try to do a lot of different things for preventative measures. But there's a lot of community partners, particularly with FACE, the family engagement part of our CCPS.
Great. Thank you for elaborating on that a little bit, Ms. Youngwadi. I appreciate it.
Did you want to add anything, Mr. Stoddard, or
Mr. Stoddard,
you're
that is
good?
your slide.
Yeah.
It is my slide? Oh,
Yes,
that's,
it is.
I will have to circle back with you.
It's
Okay.
independent.
You gently defer. Give me 1 second, Miss Thomas. I just want to say, Miss Putz, I know we're over time. We'll take the ding on this one. But Miss Putz and Miss Hicks, thank you so much for joining us. After I speak with, I call on Miss Samisha Thomas. If you all would like to add anything on behalf of Stoddard, I appreciate you being here. Miss Thomas.
Thank you. I'm going to yield my time. Ms. Smith asked the question that I wanted to ask about the survey. I saw that there was going to be a survey issued, and I just would highly recommend that for the surveys that the community is involved in creation of the survey responses, because oftentimes we survey without actually understanding what people really want. So I would just echo that sentiment from Ms. Smith, and I'll yield the remainder of my time. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also dropped in the chat earlier that I thought that in terms of reaching different segments of people, the student town hall that Ms. Obanali led was very well done. And I think, at least as it relates to the students, they loved being able to interact with each other in real time. And so that might be one way to reach the students, like understanding that their engagement may look a little different, to your point. So maybe we could do something like that again to get the students, because we had over 90 students, which was amazing. And they were different segments. We had, upper elementary all the way through high school. So that's a great way. I don't see students necessarily being excited about surveys unless there's some kind of points or something offered. But if you get them on Zoom and they can talk to their friends and express their opinions, we had to shut it off. Yes, we did have some fifth graders. Yes. So thank you for that, Ms. Thomas. That's an excellent point. Ms. Putz or Ms. Hicks, not to put you on the spot, but if you want to share anything, you're welcome to. Unless
I
it's
would
already
love
been said.
to. Yes.
Sure.
So I am grateful for having been at Stoddard for 4 years, and I think that allowed me to really get a good idea of the population and in terms of the staff, and really help change the climate from my perspective, student service, and really help give a perspective on how that can change, and just being one member of the 3 integral parts that kind of all pointed in. So there's one administrator, Mr. Joseph Evans, and then Ms. Hicks, the teacher, Jamia Hicks, and then me from student services. So we always have a different perspective. And I'd like to highlight that our house meeting, we do share data every month or every time we have a house meeting, that is attendance data, that is discipline of referrals, and grades. And so each house has the opportunity to review that and kind of amongst each other students help and come up with supports and ideas on how they can reduce and bring each other up. And so I think that is also a reason why we've seen lower disciplinary referrals and better attendance.
Appreciate that. Ms. Hicks, anything you'd like to share?
And just to kind of echo what Ms. Putt said, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I do think it's important, especially since it's a school-wide kind of program that we run, that like our 8th graders are really taking on that mentor role. A lot of times because of how big our building is, we don't often cross paths. So I think it's very important, and it's very helpful to see them be able to take on maybe a 6th grader that they don't often see, but they may be in the same house. And so it's like, hey, I saw that you earned our house in points. I appreciate you. Now I'm going to go earn my house in points. So it's kind of conjoining. While we may be one really, really large school, it's kind of making us smaller families that get to interact with each other more often. So it is really nice, especially, like I said, big building, and we don't often get to see each other.
Yeah, it's almost 1,000 students, so that is a lot to manage. And kudos to you all again. Very, very well done. I don't see any other hands raised. I will share that we do not have any speakers for public forum, so we'll get some time back that way. Thank you all so very much. Kudos again on a wonderful presentation. There were a few things in the chat. Let me ask this. As far as reports from the board, like any correspondence or updates, is there anything any colleagues wanted to share? Because if not, we can, if there is anything else that Dr. Iverson would like to address, we can get some time back that way as well. And by the way, just take a bio break if you need one. I was planning on just continuing on without a break so we could finish. So is there any last minute information you'd like to share, Dr. Iverson, or you believe it's been covered?
No, I think it's been covered. I want to thank the team for being here and just kind of reiterate our commitment to ensuring that we provide for all of our students the best environment for them to be engaged and to be safe and learn here in Charles County Public Schools. I'm very proud of the work that's been done, and Ms. Peavy, kudos to you. And we're looking forward to that 10% that we're working on, getting that number down.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Iverson. And kudos to you all again. So if I'm correct, no one has any updates? We're good. I just have one I'll share briefly. I did send an email as well that we are required to have at least one board member trained in the Maryland Open Meetings Act. I have done that. I know I was about to say Mr. Stoddert, Mr. Schwartz always maintains his. I did send the link, colleagues. It's important information, so I welcome and invite you all to take a look at it. They estimate it takes about 2 to 2.5 hours. You can do it in less time, but it's just good information to know. All right, moving on. Since we have no public forum and we're not taking a break, believe it or not, we are at our one action item. So we may be able to end on time after all. How about that? Our one action item is the...
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just,
did you have something? Yes.
I don't have it. I just wanted to ask a clarifying question about what you just presented on in terms of open meetings. Has anything changed in the last several open meetings? Did they present any new or different information, or is everything still the same?
Well, great question. There was an email, and I'm not always able to see whether MABE sends it to everyone, but one of the newer requirements is that ensuring that there's always a board member. In the past, and is Mr. Schwartz still on? Feel free to correct me, sir. Oh, yes. In the past, my understanding was as long as the, like in our case, the staff attorney is usually present. My understanding is that now there's a requirement, and the onus is on us to ensure that we always have a board member present who's trained. Is that correct, Mr. Schwartz? And feel free to add any additional information.
That's a relatively new requirement, but it has been around for a few years. So, and we've always had board members trained as well as staff who attend the meeting.
Yes, I think now they're just kind of, for lack of a better word, more gently enforcing it and reminding us. And when I saw that from MABE, I was like, okay, I want to make sure that we always remain in compliance. Yes, Ms. Butler Washington.
I was gonna say, Mr. Schwartz, didn't you make all of us take that training? Because we had to turn it in and get a certificate, because I still got mine when I first became a board member.
I wish I had the authority to make you take training, but I certainly suggested it. It's available for any member of the public who'd like to take it. It's on the Attorney General's website, so you're welcome to take that training at any time.
Yes, and to your point, Ms. Butler Washington, they do recommend that it is something that we do annually, just to make sure that we're on top of it and be aware of any possible changes. All right, so are we able to share the slide on the renaming of Indian Head? There were 3 suggestions that were presented during yes, thank you, that were presented during the presentation with Dr. Abney. Yes, Madam Vice Chair.
Sorry, I was just going to say, just for clarification, not renaming of the school.
The School-Based Health Center.
The School-Based Health Center.
I just caught it. Thank you. Thank you. I was about to start a whole situation. You're absolutely right. Let me clarify it very, very clearly. The School-Based Health Center at Indian Head. Okay. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I didn't even catch it. All right. So as you can see, these are the 3 suggestions that were provided at the time that the presentation was done. The first is Indian Head Elementary School, School-Based Health Center. The second is Dr. Chinadari Davidson. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering that name. School-Based Health Center. And finally, Dr. Charles Drew, School-Based Health Center. Obviously, these are suggestions that came from the presentation. Dr. Abney, when asked, recommended that it be named after Dr. Davidson. I apologize. If anyone knows how to pronounce it correctly, please let me know. That was her recommendation because of his local ties. There was some discussion around, candidly, all three. So this is our opportunity now. If there is a motion, if a board member would like to recommend one of the three, and we can certainly put it on the floor for discussion. Yes, Ms. Smith.
So I would like to make a motion that we name the health center after Dr. Chinadori. I'm going to say it's Devadasan, but I'm sure there are a number. I think it's Vada with the A right before the sun, so maybe it's Devadasan.
Devadasan, okay.
But certainly there's a number of his colleagues who are still kind of in and around Charles County who can help us get it right. And I can wait until discussion to explain some of my rationale for why I thought that was a good suggestion or initial suggestion by Dr. Abney at our most recent meeting when we discussed renaming or naming.
Okay, thank you. So there is a motion to rename the Indian Head School-Based Health Center after Dr. Chinadori Devadasan. I'm going to get it right. Yeah, okay. Is there a second?
I'm happy to second, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Madam Vice Chair. It has been moved and seconded. And Ms. Smith, to your point, if you'd like to weigh in with some of your rationale.
Certainly. So at the meeting in which we discussed the naming of the healthcare center, Dr. Abney initially presented, and I believe it's Dr. Devadasan, and again, I too want to get it right, so I will be sure to ask someone to correct me later after this meeting. But I wanted to do my own research since I wasn't in the county when Dr. Devadasan served. I wanted to better understand sort of who he was to the community and sort of what his work was. Dr. Devadasan, he retired in, I believe it was June of 2012, and then later passed that August. So someone who literally worked up until almost his last days serving the county. He served 22 years as a county health officer from 1983 to 88, and then again from 95 to 2012. But he worked across two separate counties. So in addition to overseeing the health department in Charles County, he also oversaw the health department in Queens Anne County as well. In doing some research, I did see some words from Commissioner President just on the caliber of and quality of Dr. Devadasan. And from his perspective, he said that his leadership put Charles County in the forefront of providing services to include dental care for low-income children. And at the time, I guess during the AIDS epidemic, AIDS awareness and resources for individuals with HIV and AIDS, which during that time I believe was fairly new, taboo, but also very prevalent. Dr. Devadasan, also served on the board of directors at Health Partners Clinic for the uninsured, which is right there in Waldorf off of 301. And then at the time, also served on the board of directors for Savista Medical Center in La Plata, which we all now know as the University of Maryland Charles Regional Medical Center. He also served as a director for the Maryland Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, Family Health Administration right there in Baltimore. And upon his passing, I thought it was interesting that the Maryland Deputy Secretary of Health and Mental Hygiene at the time spoke of Dr. Devadasan's sort of unprecedented nature of, again, serving two separate health departments across two counties that weren't even adjacent to each other, and how he managed them superbly with specific concern and for the needs of those communities. So I think when I reflect upon the naming of any facility or school in our jurisdiction, thinking about the commitment of public resources and the high honor that this would be, I think Dr. Devadasan definitely is someone who is very worthy of that honor, just given how he served Charles County, both on the local and then eventually on the state level as well. But also thinking about the legacy that he left and his very specific contributions to the Charles County community. So that's sort of why I wanted to do some more research when Dr. Abney first proposed this particular doctor. And I think having his name on the building would definitely bode well for our ethics, for our the way in which we look at our community and the fabric of who we are here in Charles County. And I would encourage my colleagues to vote yes on this name.
All right, thank you. Ms. Samisha Thomas.
I initially had a question just about whether or not we had to follow the same rules that we do for naming of schools with the naming of this building. And if I recall correctly, I was looking at my notes. I think Dr. Navarro said before, I think it was her that said we did not have to follow the same rules.
That is correct.
I was just looking through my notes. So I will withdraw my question because as I raised my hand, I was also previously looking through my notes from the last time we met. Thank you.
It's a great question, Ms. Thomas. And if we could please ask Mr. Schwartz to clarify, but that is my understanding that we are not required to have, essentially 3 presentations to the public.
More of my question was the name of, and I think it was like someone had to be passed away for 10 years or 15 years before they could
in
be
terms
named.
of, okay,
That was my question,
Gotcha.
and that was the
Okay.
one I was trying to get clarification on.
Okay.
But I think that was the one that I could be wrong, but my notes say that we did not have to follow the same naming rules for elementary or for schools that we had to do for this.
The health center.
Right.
And that is my recollection, but I will defer to Mr. Schwartz.
And that is correct.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Schwartz.
Thank you. Vice Chair Kramer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to add a little bit on to, Ms. Smith really kind of just laid out the life and legacy of Dr. I want to say that Dr. Abdi pronounced his name as Devadasan, but do not quote me.
Yes.
Okay.
I could not remember.
Because without having heard her say it, I would have been struggling as well. But I do recall, I think,
Devadasan.
audio memory of her saying Devadasan. That is what I recall.
Appreciate it.
But so he clearly had a dedication to public health, which, as you all know, is near and dear to my heart. And any of the names, just to be candid, I wouldn't have an issue with. But I just, I'm in agreement with Ms. Smith that Dr. Devadasan's dedication to public health is obvious, and even his time before he came to Charles County, and then he did have 2 decades dedicated to Charles County specifically. And typically, if I had to choose, even if we have a number of good names, I'm always going to lean towards someone who had personal ties to Charles County to honor individuals that, really made an impact directly here at home for us. And so that's just some of my rationale in supporting this. But nothing wrong with either of the other 2 names, I don't think, and I would support, the majority if we went a different way. But that's just some of my rationale for supporting Dr. Devadasan as the name.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, and I'm in agreement as well, because when Dr. Abney initially presented, they presented the 3, but she didn't, express a preference. And so when I asked, and then she provided that background and the insight, and and Ms. Smith provided even more information in terms of the ties and the accomplishments and the significance of Dr. Devadasan's legacy. I'm in agreement as well. I know that there was some mention of, to your point, that all 3, for different reasons could be significant and impactful. But I'm in agreement, when in all things being equal, just like with Mary B. Neal and, pardon me, with Margaret J. Thornton is what I meant to say, when we have someone that has, although Mary B. Neal as well, but when we have someone that has strong ties and significance and impact in our community, I think that's a wonderful way to honor them. All right. Is there any other discussion, any other questions or comments? All right. And let me expand my screen. Okay. Seeing none, all in favor of renaming the Indian Head Elementary School-Based Health Center to the Dr. Chinadari Devadasan School-Based Health Center, please signify by raising your virtual hand. Oops, I had mine up. Okay. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, if you could please lower your hands. Okay, if you could lower your hand, Ms. Thomas, thank you. Are there any opposed? All right, are there any abstentions? All right, seeing none, the motion passes. All right. Well, colleagues.
I'm sorry, just for clarification, is Mr. Hancock abstaining?
Mr. Hancock, I did not see his hand. Are you abstaining, Mr. Hancock?
Okay, we can circle back with him if.
Yes. We do have the majority vote. So we can clarify. I do believe we have, except for Ms. Brenda Thomas, all board members are present. All right. Well, thank you, colleagues. The motion passes, and I appreciate the thoughtful discussion, and that will allow us to proceed on with some of the critical items that we need to do. If I'm not mistaken, one of them just being for purposes of properly getting mail and a few other things. I know the ribbon cutting has been postponed, so Dr. Navarro will circle back with us or a member of her staff when a new date is available. Well, colleagues, seeing nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Kramer? Or okay. All right. All in favor? Yes. All in favor? I'm assuming that no one is opposed. All right. If you could lower your hands, please. Any opposed? Although we do have the majority. All right. The motion passes. Everyone have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening. Please be safe on the roads. I'm happy that the government has reopened, and hope you all have an enjoyable time, whatever you do. Maybe nothing at all.
You do.
All righty.